An older, weary-looking dog wandered into my yard one day. Judging by his collar and well-fed belly, it was clear that he had a home and was well cared for. The dog approached me calmly, and I gave him a few friendly pats on the head. He followed me inside, made his way down the hall, curled up in a corner, and promptly fell asleep. An hour later, he woke up, went to the door, and I let him out. The following day, he returned, greeted me in the yard, walked inside, and resumed his usual spot in the hall for another nap. This routine continued on and off for several weeks. Curious about his repeated visits, I decided to pin a note to his collar. I would like to find out who owns this wonderful sweet dog and let you know that he comes to my house almost every afternoon for a nap. The next day, the dog showed up with a new note pinned to his collar. It read, "He lives in a home with my non-stop chatting and nagging wife. He's trying to catch up on his sleep. Can I also come with him tomorrow?" Laura's dishwasher quit working, so she called a repairman. Since she had to go to work the next day, she told the repairman, "I'll leave the key under the mat. Fix the dishwasher, leave the bill on the counter, and I'll mail you a check. Oh, by the way, don't worry about my bulldog Bob. He won't bother you. But whatever you do not, under any circumstances, talk to my parrot. I repeat, do not talk to my parrot." When the repairman arrived at Laura's apartment the following day, he discovered the biggest, meanest-looking bulldog he has ever seen. But just as she had said, the dog just lay there on the carpet, watching the repairman go about his work. The parrot, however, drove him nuts the whole time with his incessant yelling, cursing, and name-calling. Inally, the repairman couldn't contain himself any longer and yelled, "Shut up, you stupid ugly bird!" To which the parrot replied, "Get him, Bob." We hope this gave you a good laugh. A policeman pulls over an old man driving a pickup truck with the bed overflowing with ducks. The officer says sternly, "Sir, you can't have a flock of ducks wandering around downtown. Take them to the zoo immediately." The old man nods, agrees, and drives off. The next day, the officer spots the same pickup truck, still full of ducks. But this time, all the ducks are wearing sunglasses. Frustrated, the officer pulls the man over again and exclaims, "I thought I told you to take these ducks to the zoo." The old man grins and replies, "I did, but now the little rascals want to go to the beach." So there was this stoner who decided to crash a wedding in another town. For the ultimate disguise, he dressed up as a woman and joined the ladies' side of the party. Now, being a true foodie, he overdid it at the buffet, ate so much that he ended up passing out. The women around him freaked out. One lady gasped, "Oh my gosh, she's fainted. Must be labor pains." They all huddled around, panicking. One woman bravely decided to check. She reached into his dress and suddenly pulled her hand back, exclaiming, "Oh, bless her heart, the baby's leg is sticking out already." One night, a man stumbled into the police station with a black eye. He claimed he had heard a noise in his backyard and went to investigate. The next he knew, he was hit in the eye and knocked out cold. An officer was sent to his house to investigate, and he returned 1.5 hours later with a black eye. "Did you get hit by the same person?" his captain asked. "No," he replied. "I stepped on the same rake." An elderly man decided it was time to move on, so he moved into a retirement home. He packed his stuff and moved into a retirement home. On his first day there, as he was unpacking his stuff into his room, he could help but notice that the woman in the room across the hall was staring at him. He thought it was odd, but decided not to let it bother him. Later that night, he went to the cafeteria to get dinner. He sat down at his table and, lo and behold, the woman from the hallway was sitting at the table next to him. There was no food on her table. She just sat there staring at him with fixed eyes. The man grew increasingly annoyed, but didn't say anything. After a scrumptious meal, he went to the lounge to play nightly bingo. He was enjoying the game until he noticed the woman again, staring at him. He had enough. He went up to her and said, "Ma'am, I couldn't help noticing that you have been staring at me ever since I arrived. Could you please stop? It is a bit bothersome." She replied, "I am sorry. It is just that you look so much like my third husband." The man felt bad. "I'm sorry. If you don't mind me asking, how many husbands have you had?" "2," was the woman's reply. 2 elderly sisters, Sister Grace and Sister Margaret, were returning from the evening market. It was getting late, and they still had quite a walk ahead to reach their convent. Suddenly, Sister Grace grabbed Sister Margaret's arm, her voice filled with concern. "Do you see that man behind us? Is he following us?" Sister Margaret glanced back, her eyes narrowing. "It looks like he might be. What do you think he wants?" Without missing a beat, Sister Grace whispered, "I think he's up to no good. What should we do?" Sister Margaret, thinking quickly, replied, "Let's split up. I'll go left, and you take the right path to the convent." They parted ways, and a few minutes later, Sister Grace arrived safely at the convent. As she paced nervously, worried for her friend, Sister Margaret came running down the path, breathless but safe. Sister Grace rushed to her. "What happened?" Sister Margaret caught her breath and replied, "Well, I started running, and the man began chasing me." "What did you do?" asked Sister Grace, eyes wide. "The only thing I could think of," Sister Margaret said with a smirk. "I hiked up my habit and ran," Sister Grace gasped. "And what did he do?" Sister Margaret grinned. "He dropped his trousers." Sister Grace, holding her rosary, whispered, "And then what happened?" With a chuckle, Sister Margaret said, "Isn't it obvious? A sister with her habit up runs faster than a man with his trousers down." I'm at Walmart, scanning and bagging my nearly $300 worth of groceries, while the employee who's making $15 an hour stands by and monitors the process. Then this happened. Her. "Why are you double bagging all your groceries?" Me. "Excuse me?" Her. "You're wasting our bags." Me. "If you don't like the way I'm bagging my groceries, feel free to come over and do it yourself." Her. "That's not my job." Me. "Okay, then I'll bag my groceries however I like if that's all right with you." Her. "Why are you using 2 bags?" Me. "Because the bags are weak, and I don't want the handles to break or the bottoms to rip out." Her. "Well, that's because you're putting too much stuff in each bag. If you split the items into 2 bags, you wouldn't need to double bag." 10 seconds of me just staring at her. Me. "So you want me to split these items in half and put half in a different bag so I don't need to double bag?" Her. "Exactly, me. So I would be double bagging anyway, just with a different method." Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall, bought new shoes for her wedding. During the big day, they became increasingly tighter and more uncomfortable. That night, when the festivities were finally over and they retired to their room, she flopped onto the bed and said, "Charles, darling, please remove my shoes. My feet are killing me." Her ever-obedient Prince of Wales attacked her right shoe with determination, but it wouldn't budge. "Harder!" yelled Camilla. "Harder!" Charles yelled back, "I'm trying, darling, but it's just so terribly tight." "Come on, give it all you got," she cried. Finally, when it came off, Charles let out a big groan, and Camilla exclaimed, "There, oh, that feels so much better." In their bedroom next door, the Queen said to Prince Philip, "See, I told you." With a face like that, she had to be innocent. Meanwhile, as Charles struggled with her left shoe, he cried, "Oh, darling, this one's even tighter." At that, Prince Philip chuckled and said to the Queen, "That's my boy, served in the Royal Navy, always knows how to handle a tough situation." On their wedding night, the husband turned to his new bride with a mischievous grin. "Husband, all right, do you want to be surprised first or shocked?" Wife, surprise me first." Husband, "Check this out, 10-inch cake," he said proudly, showing off. Wife impressed. "Wow, okay. Now what's the shock?" Husband, with a sheepish look, "It doesn't stand. I finally got a girlfriend long enough that I felt confident enough to visit my parents. We used her car and got a flat tire on the way. In case they were worried, I called them up and said, 'Hi, Mum, I'm going to be late. My girlfriend's got a puncture.'" "Oh," she sighed. "I thought you were bringing a real one." One afternoon, a sweet 5-year-old girl went to visit her grandmother. As she played with her dolls, her grandma busily dusted around the house. Curiosity sparked in the little girl, and she suddenly looked up and asked, "Grandma, how come you don't have a boyfriend?" Without missing a beat, Grandma smiled and replied, "Oh, honey, my TV is my boyfriend. I can sit in my bedroom and watch it all day. The TV evangelists keep me company and lift my spirits. The comedies make me laugh. I'm perfectly happy with my TV as my boyfriend." Satisfied with the answer, the little girl went back to her dolls while Grandma turned on the TV. But the picture was all fuzzy and no amount of knob twisting could fix it. Growing frustrated, Grandma started giving the TV a few good whacks, hoping that would solve the problem. Just then, the doorbell rang. The little girl ran to the door and opened it to find Grandma's minister standing there. With a warm smile, the minister asked, "Hello, young lady. Is your grandma home?" The little girl, without hesitation, responded, "Yep, she's in the bedroom banging her boyfriend." The look on the minister's face? Priceless. A farmer is sitting in the neighborhood bar getting soused. A man comes in and asks the farmer, "Hey, why are you sitting here on this beautiful day getting drunk?" Farmer, "Some things you just can't explain." Man, "So what happened that is so horrible?" Farmer, "Well, if you must know, today I was sitting by my cow milking her. Just as I go the bucket about full, she took her left leg and kicked it over." Man, "That's not so bad. What's the big deal?" Farmer, "Some things you just can't explain." Man, "So then what happened?" Farmer, "I took her left leg and tied it to the post on the left with some rope. Then I sat down and continued to milk her. Just as I got the bucket about full, she took her right leg and kicked it over." Man, "Again?" Farmer, "Some things you just can't explain." Man, "So what did you do then?" Farmer, "I took her right leg and tied it to the post on the right." Man, "So then what did you do?" Farmer, "I sat back down and continued to milk her, and just as I got the bucket just about full, the stupid cow knocks over the bucket with her tail." Man, "Wow, you must have been pretty upset." Farmer, "Some things you just can't explain." Man, "So then what did you do?" Farmer, "Well, I didn't have any more rope, so I took off my belt and tied her tail to the rafter." At that moment, my pants fell down and my wife walked in. A newlywed couple was lounging in bed, basking in the afterglow of their wedding night. As they lay there, the husband, feeling a mix of curiosity and bravery, decided to ask a question that had been on his mind. "So, babe," he said, "I was wondering, how many people have you been with before me?" His wife stared at the ceiling, giving nothing away. The husband, sensing her hesitation, tried to reassure her. "Come on, just tell me. It's all good. I promise it won't change anything." Still, the silence persisted. He started to feel like he might have stepped on a landmine, so he tried to backtrack a bit. "I'm really sorry if I've upset you. I just thought we could be honest with each other, you know?" She remained silent, so he decided to turn up the charm, leaning in to kiss her and shower her with affection. Finally, she turned to him with a look of exasperation and said, "Oh great, now I've lost count. Do you mind giving me a minute to get my calculator?" The birthday gift. From Grandma. For his birthday, a grandmother lovingly sent her grandson a shirt. However, there was a small hiccup. The shirt was a size 12, while the grandson's neck size was 14. When the grandson penned his thank you note, he humorously wrote, "Dear Grandma, thank you so much for the shirt. I'd write more, but I'm all choked up." A couple who had been married for over 60 years had shared everything, except for one secret. The little old woman had a shoebox in the top of her closet and had always warned her husband never to open it or ask about it. One day, as the woman fell gravely ill, the doctor told them she wouldn't recover. In preparing their affairs, the old man took down the box and brought it to her bedside. She agreed it was time for him to know what was inside. When he opened it, he found 2 crocheted dolls and a stack of money totaling $95,000. Surprised, he asked her about the contents. "When we were to be married," she said, "my grandmother told me that the secret to a happy marriage was never to argue. She advised me that if I ever got angry with you, I should just keep quiet and crochet a doll." The old man was deeply touched. 2 dolls in all those years meant she had only been angry with him twice. He was overwhelmed with joy. "But darling," he asked, "what about all this money? Where did it come from?" She smiled and replied, "Oh, that's from selling the dolls." A company was looking to hire for a crucial role and, after an extensive interview process, narrowed their candidates down to 3. To determine who would be the best fit, they decided to ask each finalist the same question. The catch: they had only 24 hours to provide their answer, and whoever gave the most insightful response would land the job. The question was this: a man and a woman are lying in bed. The woman is on her side with her back to the man, while the man faces her back. What is the man's name? The following day, the 3 candidates returned with their answers. The first candidate, a young man, said, "My answer is that there is no answer." The second, more analytical, said, "Given the details, it's impossible to figure out the man's name." The third candidate, an older gentleman with a twinkle in his eye, chuckled and said, "Well, I'm not entirely sure, but I've narrowed it down to 2 possibilities. Willie Turner or Willie Naylor." The room erupted in laughter, and the job was his. A man was on trial for murder and, if convicted, would get the life imprisonment. His brother found out that an Irish man was on the jury and figured he would be the one to bribe. He told the Irishman that he would be paid £10,000 if he could convince the rest of the jury to reduce the charge to manslaughter. The jury was out an entire week and returned with a verdict of manslaughter. After the trial, the brother went to the Irishman's house, told him what a great job he had done, and paid him the £10,000. The Irishman replied, "It wasn't easy to convince the rest of the jury to change the charge to manslaughter. They all wanted to let him off." A cowboy rides his horse into a small town. His throat is parched, so he ties his horse to a pole next to a bar and goes in for a drink. He comes out a few minutes later and someone already stole his horse. The people of the town are looking to see his reaction. They aren't even discreet about it. He looks around at everyone and says loud and clear, "I will walk back into the bar to get myself another drink. And if I don't see my horse right in front of the bar, I will have to do what I did in Texas a year ago after someone stole my horse. And trust me, I didn't like what I had to do in Texas a year ago." After his confident speech, the man walked back into the bar. The townsfolk looked at each other in fear and got the horse back. The cowboy finished his second drink and walked out of the bar, saddled the horse, but just before he left, the bartender walked up to him and asked, "Hey cowboy, we know that we got you your horse back, but do you mind telling us what you had to do a year ago in Texas?" The cowboy looked at him with an iron gaze and responded, "I had to walk home." One hot day, we found an old straggly cat at our door. She was a sorry sight. Starving, dirty, smelled terrible, skinny, and hair all matted down. We felt sorry for her and put her in a carrier and took her to the vet. She had no name, so we named her. The vet decided to keep her for a day or so and said he would let us know when we could come and get her. My husband, the complainer, said, "Okay, but don't forget to wash her. She stinks." My husband and my vet don't like each other. He calls my husband El Cheapo. My husband calls him El Tac Zero. They love to hate each other. Next day, my husband had an appointment with his doctor, which was located next door to the vet. The doctor's office was full of people waiting to see the doctor. A side door opened, and in leaned the vet. He had obviously seen my husband arrive. He looked straight at my husband. "Your wife's p*** is finally clean. She now smells like a rose. And by the way, I think she's pregnant. God knows who the father is." And he closed the door. It was the kindergarten teacher's birthday, and the students decided that they would each buy their teacher a gift. The first student, whose parents own a florist shop, gave her a present. She held it and said, "I guess that it is flowers." "How did you guess?" asked the little boy. She laughed and thanked him. The second student, whose parents own a lolly store, gave her a present. She held it and said, "I guess they are some lollies." "How did you guess?" asked the little boy. She again laughed and thanked him also. The third student, whose parents own a bottle shop, gave her a box that was leaking. The teacher touched the liquid with her finger and tasted it. Is it wine?" she asked. "No," said the little girl. So she tasted it again. "Is it champagne?" she asked. "No," replied the little girl. "It is a puppy." When Uncle Charlie passed away, Bill inherited his uncle's prized Amazon parrot, a fully grown bird known for its foul language and rude demeanor. Every other word from the parrot was an expletive, and the rest were far from polite. Determined to change the bird's ways, Bill tried everything he could think of, using polite words, playing soothing music, and setting a good example. But nothing seemed to work. Frustrated, Bill yelled at the parrot, but the bird only became louder and more defiant. He tried shaking the parrot, but that only escalated the bird's anger and vulgarity. In a moment of desperation, Bill decided to put the parrot in the freezer. For a few moments, he heard the bird squawking, kicking and screaming. Then suddenly, there was silence. Bill worried that he might have harmed the parrot and quickly opened the freezer door. To his surprise, the parrot stepped calmly onto Bill's arm and said, "I am truly sorry for my previous behavior and any offense I may have caused. From now on, I will endeavor to be more respectful and considerate in my actions and words." Bill was astonished by the sudden change in the parrot's demeanor and was about to inquire about what had caused such a transformation when the parrot continued, "By the way, what did the chicken do to make you so upset?" An elderly couple sat at a small table in the diner. The man ordered a single hamburger, a side of French fries, and a drink. With care, he unwrapped the hamburger, sliced it in half, and placed one half in front of his wife. Next, he counted out the French fries, dividing them into 2 equal piles and setting one pile in front of her. He took a sip of the drink. His wife took her turn, and they set the cup down between them. As they began their meal, the people around them couldn't help but glance and whisper. Clearly they thought, "That poor old couple. They can only afford one meal between them." A young man, touched by the scene, approached the table and offered to buy another meal for them. The old man smiled and politely declined, saying they were used to sharing everything. Observing closely, a few onlookers noticed that the elderly woman had not eaten yet. She simply watched her husband eat and took occasional sips from the drink. The young man insisted on buying another meal, but the elderly woman again declined, saying, "No, thank you. We are used to sharing everything." As the old man finished his meal and wiped his mouth with a napkin, the young man, still concerned, asked the elderly woman, "What are you waiting for?" With a smile, she replied, "My turn for the teeth." 2 9-story buildings stood side by side, their windows providing an all-too-clear view into each other's lives. One day, Alex leaned out of his window and called to his neighbor across the way. "Hey, Michael, when's your birthday?" Michael, surprised by the random question, leaned out and replied, "It's in May. Why do you ask?" Alex grinned. "Because I've got the perfect gift for you." "Oh yeah? And what's that?" "Well," Alex said, smirking, "since I can see everything every time your wife gets a little affectionate, I thought I'd get you some window curtains." Michael's face turned red, but he wasn't one to back down. "All right then, Alex. When's your birthday?" "July," Alex replied, raising an eyebrow. "Why do you ask?" Michael grinned slyly. "Because I've got the perfect gift for you too." "Oh, really? What's that?" "Binoculars," Michael shot back. "So you can finally see whose wife that really is." After I retired, my wife insisted that I join her on her trips to the local grocery store. Unfortunately, like many men, I found shopping tedious and preferred to get in and out quickly. On the other hand, my wife enjoys taking her time to browse. Yesterday, she received the following letter from the store manager. "Dear Mrs. Johnson, over the past 6 months, your husband has caused quite a disruption in our store. We can no longer tolerate this behavior and have regrettably banned both of you from shopping here. Below are the documented incidents involving your husband, Mr. Johnson, captured by our surveillance cameras. June 15th, he placed 24 boxes of condoms into random people's carts when they weren't looking. July 2nd, set all the alarm clocks in housewares to go off at 5-minute intervals. July 7th, created a trail of tomato juice leading to the women's restroom. July 19th, approached an employee and said in a serious tone, "Code 3 in housewares, get on it right away." This caused the employee to abandon her post, resulting in a reprimand from her supervisor, and eventually a union grievance that wasted company time and resources. There is no Code 3. August 4th, went to the service desk and attempted to put a bag of M&Ms on layaway. August 14th, moved a "Caution, wet floor" sign to a carpeted area. August 15th, set up a tent in the camping department and told children he would invite them in if they brought pillows and blankets from the bedding section. 20 children obliged. August 23rd, when a clerk asked if they could help him, he began crying and yelled, "Why can't you people just leave me alone?" EMTs were called. September 4th, looked directly into the security camera and used it as a mirror to pick his nose. September 10th, while examining guns in the hunting department, he asked the clerk where the antidepressants were. October 3rd, moved suspiciously around the store while loudly humming the Mission Impossible theme. October 6th, in the auto department, he practiced his Madonna look using various sizes of funnels. October 18th, hid in a clothing rack and yelled, "Pick me, pick me," whenever someone browsed. October 22nd, upon hearing an announcement over the loudspeaker, he assumed the fetal position and screamed, "Oh no, it's those voices again!" Took a box of to the cashier and asked where the fitting room was. And finally, October 23rd, entered a fitting room, closed the door, waited a few minutes, then shouted loudly, "Hey, there's no toilet paper in here!" One of our clerks fainted. Respectfully, the store manager.